this going, because I see, an excellent, outreach. It's well organized. It's probably well nurtured, the data.
It was like
How'd you come up
July
with,
of last year.
How did the three of you?
He was kind of approached Mike, because Mike's actually unbelievable at, he made our entire website himself, and it's really impressive what he's done. And they kind of approached me, and they were like, want to start this with us? And
Right,
I thought it was
so-
kind of strange at first, but it's really cool what we've done so far. And
Yeah.
We really wanted to make a difference in the community. We felt we needed to give back to a certain extent. The school systems here are unbelievable. The teachers are great. They're great influences towards the kids in the schools, and we really want to just repay what we've gotten in education, and just everything has gotten much better.
Mm-hmm. Especially over the last few years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially since it's no one of us has had this idea. Every single one of us has added their own part to it to make it what it is today. So.
That's awesome.
Can you model this to other schools or other organizations?
we have actually on our website, when you first type in, there's a parents page you can click on, a students page, and a school administration page, and it's like where other schools can apply, and right there.
Oh, that's terrific. Thanks.
Guys, I was going to ask, is the website live for public access?
It is,
then?
yes.
And do you want to just read out loud what the website is?
Yes, it's http://
Whoa, slowly, because,
Sorry.
no,
It's right up there. You can
Right.
just look right up and.
Oh, all right. It's basically just 2minutetips.org,
Okay.
and that's the 2 spelt out. So we've had a lot of
If somebody
confusion with
Googled
that.
2-minute tips, all one word, .org, they would find it.
They would definitely find it, yes.
Great.
So, yeah.
Tina? I echo what Steve has to say, and I just think it's great you're working with our food services director and our wellness director. I love that you're going to make videos, because I know my kids like to watch YouTube videos about all kinds of things. So I think that's really going to appeal to the younger kids,
Right.
definitely. And hopefully they can, get access to this in their wellness classes when they're going through the nutrition tips or exercise, and they can bring in a TV and show one of your clips. It kind of dovetails with our technology plan that we're going to discuss later in the
Yes.
meeting. And I give you guys, 2 thumbs up. This is fantastic. You've already put a ton of work into it.
Thank you.
And it's really a great effort. And as Mrs. Spinelli said, it is the best thing the younger kids can see is older kids modeling good choices and smart behavior. And this is it. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, and like you said with the videos, Mike actually has a green screen at his house, so we're going to film them there, and there's so many outgoing and funny kids in the National Honor Society. So we're going to try to get them in the videos, and it'll be also helpful and entertaining for the children at the same time.
We kind of, I'm sorry, can
Do you
I?
have any resources that you need that you don't have right now? And don't say money, because we all know you need money, but no, I'm kidding. But what do you need? Are you missing anything right now?
Basically just legal, but that's something that will come. I mean,
Okay, thanks.
we haven't really technically looked into it that much yet, but
Yeah, I mean, everybody's been so supportive ever since we told everybody about this idea, especially Ms. Spinelli. She's given us so many resources to contact this person and that person. It's really been an integral part of why we're able to get this far, and hopefully we can go even farther.
I just want to say one more thing. Alex added in about the National Honor Society kids that are funny and are outgoing. They'll talk in the videos. We want to also integrate multiple departments, so the art kids could help us design graphics for the websites. There's a new film and communications class hosted by Mr. Callahan here at the high school. These kids can work with and create video tips for us. A lot of kids are interested in writing. We can get the journalism class up and going about this. So.
Talk to the Ahern Broadcasting Club. I
Yeah,
bet the middle
we've
schoolers
heard
would
about
love
that
in
too,
on this
yeah.
too, if they could.
That's so much potential. One of the things they haven't mentioned that impressed me is that when they start to launch it at the elementary, we're having a meeting actually this Wednesday, right after our regular admin team meeting. The elementary principal is going to stay and meet with them to talk about how they're going to communicate this to the elementary students, and Ms. Johnson will be there as well. So I've already got that meeting arranged. And when they roll this out, they're going to personally visit the elementary schools during the lunch period. Oh, yeah, Ms. Myers-Packlet, they need to be out of class prior to. I already said yes.
Only if I get to join them to watch.
Okay. I might have already said yes and probably forgot to mention it, but, so they're going to be doing it personally themselves, and like I said to them, kids will listen to other kids way before they'll listen to adults, so I think this will snowball and really take off, so
Thank you.
it's going to be exciting.
So exciting, so innovative, and just,
It's great.
yeah, thank you so much for coming in and sharing.
Thank you
that
for
with
letting us speak.
Yeah. You represent Foxborough kids very well.
Yeah.
You
really
absolutely
do.
do. Very proud, very proud.
So I'll update you at some other point as
Yes.
to what's happened.
Good job, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same stuff. That's great. That's what a teaching and learning highlight's all about.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Not future leaders, they're already leaders.
That's right.
They're impressive.
Okay, we're going to move on to the turf field update.
Yes, Mr. Yukon.
Probably a little hard to see when you drive in, as it's getting darker quicker now. But if you haven't followed it, as you know, we started the field process almost a month ago now. And in that month, all of the drainage has been installed. They excavated about 4,000 yards of material, which has been moved to the back for the future baseball field area. They have replaced that material with gravel so that we'll have good drainage underneath this. They've put a curb around the entire field itself, which gives us the anchor for the rug that is actually put down the turf carpet. And they've also gotten the two goal posts out for the football side of how this field is used and in place. And as of today, they finished all the fine grading, and the engineers, this breaks down into two components. The first one is Green Acres doing all the site work and prep, and then Sprint Turf, which is actually the company that was awarded the turf material, takes control of the field area once the fine grade is done. So they'll come in, and they actually were in today, and they'll be in tomorrow morning again, and they validate that all of the grades are proper, that the compaction is right, and that the field is ready for the turf field, because if it's not, anything that you do or don't see by the eye right now will transfer through, and you'll see it when you finally get the final carpet down, or you feel it when you walk on it. So there's a very detailed process, which is undergone part of it today and some of it tomorrow. And once they sign off, then they will take control of the field itself. The actual field is here. It's been delivered. So if you look when you go by, again, I don't know if you'll see it, but maybe in the morning, you'll see about 30 rolls that are large rolls that will be rolled down. And then what will be coming in over the next few days is the actual rubber pellets that get installed into that turf once it's laid out. That will take up a good portion of the parking lot again, so we're going to lose a little bit of it again that we lost earlier. But so far, everything has gone extremely well. The contractor has been phenomenal. The site actually we probably did pick the best site to do this because of the material that's underneath that. They have done 6 of these just this year. They've done about 50 of them. But they said this is the best site that they've worked on from a material point of view. So they're really hoping that obviously our long-term results will be better than most because of that. And as I said, the contract, I can't speak highly enough about this contractor. I've worked with a lot of them. But this group is extremely responsive to the point of working back and forth if we needed something on the parking area, or if they needed something that, is just very simple and easy. Not a lot of dragged out issues. So we're virtually about 50%. Actually, we're probably about, I take that back, about 65% through right now. It will take about 2.5 weeks once they start putting down the turf itself, and you'll have a field once they are complete. During the interim, while the field's going down, the walkways that go around the entire field, we put in, there's a paved walkway, 12-foot on the home side and 6-foot on the guest side, so that when people are coming to the field, they have the ability to track stuff off their shoes on a hard surface before they actually get onto the turf field itself. And so, virtually, 2.5 weeks from now, they're about a week ahead of schedule. They should be able to turn this field over back to the schools to use. And we are already in discussions with the athletic department to start laying out our plan, and we're going to meet with the recreation department to start laying out how the town side of the plan will work. But I think we're doing very well. Can't speak highly enough about the group, so I think we're done well.
Great. And ahead of schedule?
Going very well. Thanks to
Thank you.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Thanks to the people doing the work. Bill, Jim DeVellis and the Turf Subgroup. Everybody's keeping an eye on everything and staying involved, and that's how things get done really in a good way.
And one of the big issues, obviously, is the financing on this. And as you know, part of the money that's coming from this, there's about, it's about $375,000 of the money that was left from the high school that's going to this. There's more money left, but that amount is going to this part of the field. There's $200,000 coming from the NFL. The NFL, we actually received the first check of that today, so that was $90,000. We're submitting for the second check, so we should have that within a couple weeks. So it took them a couple weeks to turn that around. And then the last $20,000 is done at completion. And so I think, from a financial point of view, we're in good shape with this phase of it, and the next phase, we're literally just waiting for the word to be able to pull the trigger. And again, the contractor has been extremely graceful in saying, just as soon as you can tell us you got the money, we're ready to go. So very good on that side as well. No issues.
How about the money from the state so that we can get going on the baseball fields again? Is that being?
That's the thing we're waiting for. We've talked to Jay
The-
Barrows, he's pushing. We've talked to the head of the superintendent's group, they're pushing. I've pushed as hard as I can without probably breaking something. So I think at this point, we're a little bit in a holding pattern, but we're hoping that that's very quickly to be resolved.
It's challenging.
Yeah,
I spoke to the head of MSBA personally in July, the superintendent's conference, but the communication is, well, let's just say a little slower than we'd like, or that would be good for us at this point, so that we can move forward. But, so we're just waiting.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll meet
for
our
that.
schedules, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
That's a great update. Thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
Debbie, did we say at the last meeting we would talk about inviting the craft organization in to thank them at the appropriate time?
Yes, we did. So we're expecting some type of, whatever you want to call it, I'll just, for sake of not knowing, I'll also call it like a ribbon cutting ceremony. And since this did start, not only with the TRIF subcommittee, with the NFL grant, I have reached out to Mr. Kraft's team, and they are looking to get back to us as a first stage, some dates where he's in town that's good for him, and we'll start with that, and then work with the TRIF subgroup and the community to go from there.
Thank you.
Great.
And as far as we can tell, as you know, we've displaced a lot of people during this process. But, we did make a lot of alternative arrangements during the summer to, get ready for this. And in talking to the football coaches, as well as the band, they all seem to be very comfortable that we did what we said we would. And they've been able to get through this so far with little impact. And that, the facilities we said we'd give them, we gave them. So I think it's been very good, and I think everybody's kind of feeling comfortable that we're performing as we had said we would, so.
Thank you, Bill, for all your work on
Great.
that. All right, we're going to stay with you for bid awards.
Yeah. First of the two bids, as you know, annually we go out for school buses. This year, a little different than last year. We had not only the two 77-passenger buses that we were looking to replace, we're also looking to replace one of our smaller 30-passenger buses. The bid was written because we've had issues with the 30-passenger buses where most of the buses that are currently offered have a secondary step behind the bus driver, which means that A, the kids are raised, very hard for them to see what's going on within the bus. Second of all, if they have to react to something, they've got a trip step that could be an issue. And the third thing is it's a raise, so now you got another step up that you have to bring in. We use these buses not only for our regular students, but we also use them for our special needs students. So those are kinds of things that really, create problems for us. So we wrote the spec very specific to be a flat-floored bus. The only one I could find at the time was an upper-level style bus, and we have since found another one. The unfortunate thing, or I guess fortunate in the sense, was when the bids came in, nobody could bid except for one company could bid the upper-level bus, and that one company didn't bid the way they were supposed to. They actually made a mistake in their bid, so they were disqualified. So we have found since another bus that will meet the qualifications. Actually, there's a couple buses now that meet the qualifications that do have that flat floor. We're going to go back out to bid. So all I'm asking you to bid on, or to accept tonight, is the low bid on the 77 passenger, which was O'Connor Bus Sales. They've basically given us the offer on 2 buses at $79,224 apiece. And what they're giving us for a trade on our 2 older buses, both of which are just, one's 10, one's 11 years old, and both of them are over 100,000 miles, 17,000 in total. So we would obviously allocate that. So our net bid for the 277 passengers is $141,448. And as I said, we wrote the specs so that we don't have to accept the minibus if that wasn't something that, met our needs. It didn't come in properly. So as you can see, there were 4 qualified bidders, and the 5th one just made an error on their things, and they didn't send in all the information, so therefore they weren't qualified to bid. DATCO has been the bus company we've actually bought buses from the last few years. O'Connor Bus Sales we bought from a number of years ago. They are out of Maine, which obviously would give you your normal concerns as far as warranty and stuff, but they have a deal with Tri-State, which is right up in Framingham, and they actually will pick up buses and deliver parts and everything, so we're no worse off than we were before. And there's actually another, these are Bluebird buses, so there's actually a Bluebird dealer in Providence, which is 25 miles away. So under warranty, I can go anywhere I want. So I have a number of options, so I'm not concerned, about that side of it. I did even go to the extent of having our town mechanic, Glenn, go down with Dennis to actually see one of these buses, because again, it's something we haven't bought a Bluebird in a few years. And there were a number of features on this bus that they actually liked more with the way they kind of set up the inside than some of the current buses that we've been getting. So I think overall, we've got a very high comfort feeling in these 2 buses.
Okay,
Very
we have a
good.
question in the audience. Do you want to come up and just ask your question? State your name, please.
My name's Joe Garrity, and I'm from Foxborough High School, and I was just wondering what bus numbers were going to be replaced. Was it 18 in?
So which buses you want to know are going to be?
What buses are going to be replaced? What
Okay.
numbers?
Sure. I don't know if Bill
No,
has
I got to
that.
be honest with you, I did not bring that with me
Yeah.
tonight. Wasn't one of the questions I was thinking about.
Is
Sorry.
it bus 18 the bus I take in the morning?
I don't,
We don't
honestly
know,
don't know
huh?
which one it is, Joe.
Whichever the 2 oldest are, but we're not sure. I don't know the numbers of them.
Thank you, though, for your question. Sorry, we
But
we
I'll
don't have
find
the
out,
answer.
Yeah,
and
you're
if
fine.
next time at the high school, I'll let you know.
So I'll make the motion to approve O'Connor Bus Sales for the 2 larger 77 passenger buses as quoted.
Do you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Okay. Update on the generator bid.
Okay, as you all know, we were looking at putting in a generator at the Taylor School, which is the only school that doesn't have any kind of backup power supply. We had a couple feelings behind that. One was that it would probably be the better disaster recovery location because of its location near the center of town. Its size obviously is comparable to that of the borough. It would give us 2 if we actually had to get to that point. But the other side of it is without any emergency generation at all, obviously when we have any kind of a power failure at that school, we can't run anything. We can't run refrigerators, freezers. So we always, if it stays out for any period of time, we obviously have to transfer all the food to another school that does have that backup capability. So the concept was to obviously put a generator in. When we looked at the building, we've all talked about the borough as being the next project to be done. The Taylor would be the last project of the schools that hasn't gone through a renovation. However, this would be one of those items that you don't have to worry about, losing in a renovation. The negative is that the power supply and the panels inside of the Taylor School are so old that if you were to actually go for a smaller generator and just do life safety items and the freezers, you would have to do so much electrical work internally to redo the power supply inside that your cost gets elevated significantly. So what we looked at as an alternative to that, and which would make this even better, would be an entire school generator. So it would basically be able to run that school as if the power was running from National Grid. And effectively, the cost that we would be incurring was mitigated by the cost of what it would have taken to redo all the electrical panels and switches and everything that way. And again, we had 2 generator companies come in and go through the whole thing, and it seemed like the numbers worked. I was able to hold about $110,000 for this project, and unfortunately, as you see, the bids came in north of that, the lowest one being at $133,000. So the issue here right now is really that I can't accept the bid because we don't have enough funding. And what I'm basically looking to see if the committee would like us to go back and see if we could use other revolving account money, because part of the defense we could do with this one, if you're so inclined, would be to go back into like extended day, building rental, things like that, that basically do use this building. Extended day, it's an obvious, one that could donate money towards the cause of putting something like this in. But shy of that, if that's not your interest, then at this point, I'd have to say that we're
How much are we shy?
shy of 25,000,
So wait a minute, we
25,000?
have bids, so we have 110,000 that we had allocated for this generator. And what were the bids? Because we don't have that.
Low bid's 133,000. But right now, you can't accept a bid because we don't have enough money dedicated to it.
Did we have any idea that this was what the cost was going to be?
No, we expected it to be shy of 110. We expected it to be about 105. We gave ourselves a little cushion. just
But
in case.
the lowest bid is 133.
Right.
But the additional electrical work that it would take to bring the building up,
Is what
to
is
work with-
factoring into
would
this
be
increase
the-
in cost?
that would be the $25,000
Well, we're not
gap there?
exactly sure why it's coming up higher than the 105. We know what the generator cost is. The generator cost is about $65,000 for the generator the size that we would need. Very similar to what we just did at the library. But again, I think what some of the issues that are coming up is it's an older building, and a lot of the electricians are nervous about that connection that they're going to have to make to older gear, older switch gear. So I think they're probably protecting themselves on the bid, and there's really not much you can do about that.
So it may, in the end, not be that amount, depending on the work.
No, this is their bid.
Oh,
I
that-
mean, it's a fixed bid
Yeah.
process, so the reason you don't have it in your package is really you can't accept something tonight. My question is, do you want me to go back? I have a window of time here now to look for other resources to determine if we can come up with enough money, or do you feel that the 133,000 is too much to spend on this project?
How much of a window do we have?
I virtually have about, I know I can make it for your next meeting.
Okay.
I have time.
You have what, I'm sorry?
I have enough time to make it to the next meeting.
I would
You
like
have
to.
enough time for what, for the next
to-
meeting?
To do the work to see if I can come up with the resources in which to pull together
If
the extra
you
25,000.
direct us to do that.
Yeah,
I think
guess-
it'd be hard to make a vote on anything tonight without that information, so I mean.
We can't, so, but.
No, I'm not
so-
talking about the bid, I'm just talking about whether we want to spend this kind of money, so regardless, because I'm not saying accepting the bid, but I think we need to have more information about how you would be able to get that,
Well,
what
but that's what
sources.
that's what he
It would
needs
be
us.
from the extended day revolving account.
That's
I would want to see what the balance is in
Is
the
in the
revolving
revolving
account right
account.
now.
Yeah.
It's just.
But what he needs from us is our okay that he explore that
Yes.
avenue.
Well, what does the committee think?
Yes.
I would like to definitely
I think we
have
have a
him explore that
consensus.
avenue.
Steve?
Yeah, we have to look into it.
Yeah.
Can I ask questions about the current bid, or
course.
should we talk about it later? So is the 133K, is that a turnkey, rock-solid bid, and it'll all work? So do we have a warranty? Do we know the, lifetime expectancy of the unit with the frequency it might be used in this region as opposed to in the Arizona desert versus New England? And the long-term cost of ownership, do we know those numbers?
Yeah,
Are they
and-
built into that 133? or-
No, the 133 basically is your installation turnkey, to your point. And it's the only thing that's not inclusive of that, and that is if we have to ask the gas company to upgrade the line, but they've always done that to us for gratis in every building, because obviously they're looking for bigger users that way. So, but they have come out already once, and they think that they have enough supply that's going up to the meters right now. The building is not a big gas user. Most of our utilities in there are electric right now, so that the system that was brought up for the heating system, and it was an oversized system at the time. So we think we're okay with the gas, but again, that would be the gas company working with us to resolve. The, as far as the maintenance and ongoing, we maintain obviously 4 other generators throughout the district. We have a service contract on all of them. This would come with a 5-year warranty. So during the 5 years, obviously, we have very limited exposure. After that, we run a couple $1,000s a year on our maintenance costs, our service contracts, which is to, to run them, test them, change any of the issues that go along. Again, this being a gas-powered one and not a diesel-powered one, gives us some advantages on the maintenance too. It tends to be a lot less than the diesel ones are.
So after 5 years, we would expect about a $2,000 to $3,000 addition to our maintenance for this new unit as installed at 133. And you don't expect any change orders to be coming in at this 133?
This is a very, I mean, I did hire an electrical engineer to develop the plan and actually put it together. It's a very simple installation in the sense of what has to be done. There virtually is nothing. I mean, it's plug A to B and here's your switch.
But the bid is high, in your opinion, and it was because the electrical is protecting themselves from what? I'm sorry.
From working on the inside power supply, what they have to connect to.
Because it's an older building.
And stuff.
Right. So they want to improve upon it, or they want to integrate with it?
They have to integrate into it.
Okay.
So there are
But we
more
don't need to
unknowns in that
improve.
building than there are in the library, for example.
What about the Borough, though? Can you give us a little background on when we got those generators? Because Borough is an
It
older.
came with the borough when the
came
borough
with-
was
That
built.
was the original generator with the
And it has not been replaced.
No. Most generators will last between 30 and 40 years because, to Steve's point, very limited use. They're probably exercised more than they're used.
That's
So,
good.
From a practical point of view, it's probably less than a few days of time usage in a normal year. Last year, we probably used them a total of about 2 weeks because we had those outages, but.
So you said the lowest bid was 133. Can you share with us what the other bids were, so we have an idea of what
Yep,
the
the
scope is?
high bid was 215,000, which pretty much rolled everybody in the room.
Wow.
Then the second bid was 173,000. Not, I've got to be honest with you, it's just like on the turf field. I'm not surprised to see big differences. On the turf field, our second bid above us was over 100,000 more. So these type of things happen on bids. It depends on what somebody feels.
Right. Well, okay, so what's the time frame again with these bids that we have?
I have virtually another 20 days in which to accept or reject these bids outright. Like I said, I can't accept them today based on the 110, but I
Right.
can work on other financial.
So for us, it's just, do you want to stop here?
No.
Or
No.
would you like us to
Right.
pursue where we're going to get the gap funding from and come back with that at the next meeting?
Yeah.
I don't see any reason not to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the real question, so I motion we accept, I motion that we allow the administrative staff to look for other funding sources or investigate them so that we can consider them later.
I'll
with the
second
present
that.
bids in place.
Consensus,
Huh?
or do we need an actual vote?
I think just consensus is fine.
Consensus, I think, is good, but thank you,
I'm in
Steve.
the affirmative on a consensus for going forward.
Okay.
Perfect.
So that would
Perfect.
give us time for our next meeting
Yep.
to get that. So I think what we'll need is a real itemized list of exactly where those sources are and any revolving accounts that you're going to be suggesting we take the funding for, what the balances are, like you normally give us, and a copy of all those bid requests, so we
Yep.
can review that before the meeting. Okay. All right, shall we move on then? School to Career Services.
Yes. As the committee knows, one of the goals, when we met at our July goal-setting workshop, one of the goals in our shared school district goals that the committee and administration shares, that is new for 2013-14, states to continue guidance services at all levels which best support academic achievement with school committee review of career planning opportunities and school-to-work life skills. So this is kind of a, I don't know if I say renewed or new focus for us as a team here. So we've been having a lot of discussions in the last few months with you as a committee and with our administrative team about how do we expand those practical school to career, school to life, school to work opportunities for students to explore, to get more knowledge, to have practical experience. And we've talked about more externships. When Mrs. Myers-Packler, if you wouldn't mind coming up, I know you have some thoughts to offer. When Mrs. Myers-Packler and her team were here at their last meeting to present the senior project pilot proposal that the committee voted in favor of, we were talking about how we're going to have someone coordinate all those externships and keep an eye on it. So, as always, we've been interested in more school-to-career opportunities for students rather than fewer. So we formed a plan of how can we get more services. Right now, we belong to the Attleboro Area School-to-Career Partnership, which we intend to continue to belong to. But we are not in Bristol County, which is the other 3 towns are in Bristol County, and we're not. So some grant opportunities exist for the other 3 towns that don't exist for us. So we pay basically what I would consider a full assessment to the Attleboro Area School to Career Partnership. So as you can see from the memo that we prepared for you, that through our review of our current school to career services and meeting with key staff members to discuss our structure, what we came up with was an alternative model that we feel we'd like to recommend to the committee that you consider voting for us to move to. And that is to take our school to career specialist, who now works for the partnership, and employ that staff member directly ourselves in the Foxborough Public Schools, which gives us more flexibility. It allows that career specialist to work on projects that we have interest of that may not be part of the partnership's particular goals for that year, or focus areas, if you will. And it would also have us gain time. So right now, the school to career specialist works 4 days a week. If we were to employ that person directly as a staff member, then we could increase to 5. It's not something we can direct the partnership to do, for example. So we feel that bringing the position in-house would give us that extra time, flexibility, and allow us to expand and take the already exciting programs that we get through the partnership and do some more things for students that are good. So I'm going to turn over a little bit to Mrs. Myers-Packler to explain why she also thought it was a good idea.
Well, having somebody 4 days a week is great, but to have them 5 days a week and to have that flexibility of that individual in this building for planning purposes, for meeting with students, for being able to plan those field trips that so many of our students have been able to go out on, that you all have heard about in the last year, that we've been able to add to. And to have us as the final determinant of what we are going to do and when we're going to do it would be wonderful. Instead of, in some cases, being on the calendar, or I don't want to use the term mercy.
Yeah.
It sounds so negative, but, somebody else is out there who can also say, no, that doesn't quite work. So that for this role and this individual, it's just going to benefit our kids, and benefit our students 5 days a week, 185 days out of the year, 180 days out of the year. And really we can begin to expand and I think further develop what we already have going on now.
You can see on the second page, we have the cost analysis outlined for you. Bill and I did meet with the Attleboro Area School to Career Partnership director this afternoon to make sure there were no obstacles or roadblocks, and there are not. We would still be a member of the partnership. We would still have the ability to fully participate in all of their partnership activities. We would just pay, I don't know what else to call it, a membership or a subscription rate, which is much lower. So that's part of the increased cost, is that we would be taking on the salary but still paying a membership or subscription rate for that. Whatever, I'm not sure exact word for that, but we met with her for about an hour late this afternoon, and there were no barriers, and there's no financial negativity for the partnership because they're not carrying that person as well, and they're getting our fee. So it's really, we decided, after meeting with her, there were no barriers, and it's really kind of a win-win-win for everybody.
Debbie, can you give us an example of the type of thing we would still perhaps get out of maintaining our membership with them?
Yes. As you know, the partnership, as any agency, establishes their goals and their focus for any given year and over time. So actually, they provided us recently with a list of activities that our kids get through the partnership that our school to career specialists would still be involved in, helping with the planning and the organization for all these events. I think the most visible is the Credit Fair for Life that we've talked about before, and we are trying to send more of our kids there. There's going to be some cost of that, but we're looking at parts of the high school guidance or career budget for that. So we have, we had 110 students last year go to the Credit Fair for Life. I'll just read you the whole list. Why not? These are all career exploration activities. Future Aviation Day at TF Green Airport in Rhode Island, that 39 students went there. 29 students went to something I should know, but it's MTTI. I'll think of what I think it is in a minute. 25 kids went to New England Tech to explore the opportunities there. 17 students went to Johnson & Wales. 26 to Porter and Chester as a career exploration opportunity. 14 to Bob's Discount Furniture. 23 students participated in Future Educators Day. 7 Future Nurses Day. Already said 110, Credit for Life. 22 Construction Career Day, which is always popular. The Certified Nursing Assistant Program, we had 3, that's quite a meaty program. We had 3 students, and that's in Attleboro, participate in that. 4 in the Teacher Apprentice Program. We had 118 job placements for students. National Portfolio Day, 11 students went into Boston for that with guidance support. This is what we do in partnership with guidance. 90 went to the National College Fair, and that's it. And this year, they expect to have an Opportunities Fair, which we were interested, it's the first time I heard about it today, where they're hoping for sometime in the winter for high school students who don't have college plans or unsure of that there would be an Opportunities Fair to identify kids who weren't sure they wanted to go on to higher ed and what opportunities exist for them in career and work in the military, other options for them. So we would identify students who are interested in going to an Opportunities Fair. So those are the kinds of things the partnership does regularly that's a great benefit to us. And then beyond that, it could be anything really that we're interested in. The sky's the limit, I think.
So basically, you're saying the difference between these two positions is $14,460.
Yes, and that is the membership fee to the Attleboro School to Career Partnership, which is now going to be paid separately, is not just the salary, and having the School to Career Specialist work full-time, a 40-hour work week.
Which would be an additional day that they're
Yes.
working right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a few additional days. So it would be basically what the teachers work, about 100, not that they would be part of the Teachers Association, but 185-day work year rather than the, whatever it is now. I don't know what the total is now.
So it seems like there's a lot of advantages to having our own full-time person who's obviously involved in so many of these opportunities in school to career, then gives us an additional day to expand
Absolutely.
our school to career opportunities, which of course we've been talking about collectively. I mean, I've always been very impressed with the list that is brought forth every year and the giving, students an opportunity for real-life experiences. It's just, I think, invaluable. I don't know what other members, if they want to speak to this, whether they have questions or.
I would like to know, Deb, when you think it could start, and how, or where you think the additional 14,000 would be funded from?
Okay, we are down a half a position in a particular department that we didn't need. And due to, I'm just going to say caseloads, I think that's the fairest thing I can say. So we're not going to fill that position. We looked at caseloads very carefully. So that's a half of a teacher's salary. So that actually is going to come in handy because the happy news is we have a lot of people expecting babies this year. So some of those things that we don't expect that we have to account for, we guess every year, but we seem to, I think we're going to have a banner year in that case. So we will need some of that to go toward things like that. However, we won't need the whole amount. So I think it's very fair to say that if half a teacher's salary at this point, even a veteran teacher with some experience is, say, up to $35,000 for half a salary, that this is where we would get that. So given that recently happened, we felt pretty comfortable that rather than wait a year and put it in the next budget, which is what we were talking about in July, that you might see, it really could happen now. We went over the financials with the partnership coordinator, and what we would really do is that whatever payments have been made to the person as a partnership staff member, we would reimburse for as part of this, and then pay the membership fee, because we haven't paid our membership fee to them yet. We haven't paid our assessment yet. So it can be done still. It's still early in the year. We just got the bill for the assessment a few weeks ago. So if the school committee is in favor of this and votes in the affirmative, then I will speak to her tomorrow, and they would issue us a new assessment at the rate that you see there, $6,240. and then we go from there. So
So this will happen immediately?
it'll happen immediately.
Which
You
would
have
be
to
very
vote on
good
it
for our
tonight?
students.
We don't have to vote on it tonight, no. I'll give you my thoughts, Steve, but just my opinion. I mean, we talked at our retreat about, school to career being incredibly important, and I think we're always impressed with how many programs, guidance, and our school to career specialists do, but I think we thought this was increasingly important, and I personally like this very much. The same person, instead of being here 4 days, be here 5 days under our direction for a incremental 14,000 that we think we already have in the budget from being down a half teacher position. I love it. Personally, I love it.
I agree. I have it written here. In fact, the chair was saying the word valuable. I was writing the word valuable in my notes, to be honest with you, in terms of a wavelength. I just like to wait till, it sinks in a little bit, and I'm a little lost in what the actual net dollar figures are. Are we going to increase, is there going to be an increase in benefits or a burden that we have to factor in there? I don't know.
question.
The
I
person would be
apologize.
eligible for benefits, but that's why we're down the one staff member and then up this, so we felt that we're not, surprising the town with an increased load, with that, because we did have a resignation that we're not filling.
So that person was accounted for in our.
That's correct.
In our budget in terms
So
of
that's
benefits and in terms of.
That's correct.
So it's not
Yes.
additional,
No.
it's just kind of.
Which is another reason that made us say, I guess the way is, is it unusual to come in September with a proposal like this? Sure it is. But we were trying to weigh which was more risky, like putting it forward now, I don't mean risky in a bad way, but do we want to put this forward to your thoughtful consideration now, or the senior project, and not only just senior project, but as you know, we're interested in, we are pursuing externships and job placement opportunities with companies in the area. We need somebody to coordinate that. We cannot ask the existing career specialist to coordinate those things because she doesn't work for us. And so her job is to carry out the focus areas for the partnership. So what we decided was it was worth putting it for your consideration now, because without that, we don't have a designated person to coordinate these new externships and community partnerships that we're reaching out toward, nor do we have someone who could be the point person for the senior project. So that might bumble a little bit without a point person. So everything just kind of came together, and we just said, maybe it's worth certainly bringing it forward to you in September.
And it's certainly, we have a qualified person who has demonstrated her full commitment and her capabilities.
But this is really about changing to a new model.
Right,
It's
it's
not about
teaching
the
to-
person. I want to make sure it's changing to a model that now and going forward will benefit our students and
But we
provide
have-
us with more time and flexibility and, to be honest, a sense of direction that we want, that may be different from what four of the towns collectively want.
I was just thinking that we will have more autonomy in our decision-making in terms
That's
of
the word.
where we want to direct our resources to this particular service, which is school to
Yes.
career. And that in itself is very valuable, I think, to be able to do that.
But we'll continue to have the opportunities that have been available in the
Right.
past, plus whatever we choose to add in
Exactly.
the future.
That's right.
Right. I think it's actually kind of, given this, that we've had this other change in, employment status, whatever, that it's,
Timely.
thank you, timely. So, I don't,
Without
I mean,
that,
I'm
I
in
don't know
support
if
of.
you'd be seeing it tonight,
Right.
because we are cognizant, and we work closely with the town, and we do
Right.
give them an idea of how many staff members are benefit eligible.
Right.
And we wouldn't want to tip the boat right after we put the oars in the water, but this
Yeah.
is an even situation.
Okay.
Just another question. Diana, does this role, or I don't know if you've had a chance to think this through, but would this role work for you? Does it work for guidance? How do we
Oh.
oversee the?
Absolutely. We're very excited about the prospect of this, and guidance is as well, because we're always working as a team, with ideas that we're coming up with, and can we do, how would this fit, where can this go in? And to have this as an expanded full-time position, it's just, We just see it as a win-win for us, truly a win-win.
And I'm sorry, so it would work for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Would report to
So you could
us.
give us a report back at the end of the year as to
Oh.
whether this was,
Or even a mid-year briefing.
It probably would be in with the guidance update.
With the update, with the guidance. is
I
where
think it'd
we
be,
would see it.
I think if we agree to it, and, it's sounding like we're getting there, I think part of what I'd be interested in at least is, your thoughts on what did this bring us, right? I think we get excited about what we think it'll bring us, and then I think it'd be great to see the actuals.
Absolutely.
I like
Okay,
it.
so- All right, so you would need a motion.
Yes, I do need a
who wants to
motion
make
and
a
vote
motion to
approve.
Well, I fully support this, and a major benefit I see is we have an experienced person who is already on hand who could step into this and handle it very capably. So I would like to make the motion that we're voting on the $14,460, correct?
You're voting basically to move the position into an in-house staff position.
I am making the motion to move this.
The
to
career
a-
school to
the
school to career
career, yeah.
specialist.
Specialist into a full-time position,
In-house.
in-house.
And I'll second that.
Do we have any other discussion?
I would just like to ask that we consider waiting to vote on this.
Okay, well, we do have a second motion, which means that we'll move forward to a vote, and then people can decide if they want to wait
Mhm.
or abstain, or, the majority will dictate whether it passes or not, right? I mean, at this
Right.
point, so. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 4, against? Abstain? 1, okay. So that
Thank you.
passes. Thank
Thank you so much. It's
Thank you very
exciting.
much.
Okay, we'll move on to FPS Technology Plan.
Well, all righty. I'll invite Dr. Berdos, Bill Yugna, and Paul Bortolotti to the presentation table, as it were, while I start a little bit of an introduction. As you know, I've been talking about a new version of a technology plan for quite a while. Coming up with a new technology plan was really important to me, and I know to the committee, because we all share a desire to have a tech plan that doesn't just communicate what we need for infrastructure or I would say the traditional things that you see in a tech plan that, for example, has to be submitted to the state, but really a desire to begin discussion and something for your consideration. I'm going to call this a first pass. So to really develop a technology plan that can be easily communicated to parents, to students, to the community, about where are we trying to go with technology in terms of its central role in advancing the learning process. And that's the kind of tech plan that you don't often see. The more traditional tech plan with infrastructure and how many computers per student, that's what we're used to seeing. So because this is such a complicated task, I want to just take you back in terms of the steps that we went through. So we didn't just look at other people's plans and write something up quickly. We really took this whole full school year, this past school year just about, and the first thing we did as an entire administrative team, so I'm just doing the background introduction, I'm going to turn it over to the detail people. We together read Empowering the 21st Century Superintendent, 5 Themes and Action Steps for Technology Leadership, which you see in the overview of the core design of this, because we realized that we need to understand more about what's out there for information about the role of technology in education. What is the central role, and what are we doing to define that role and to communicate what we're trying to do? So we read this, and we actually took each of the themes and action steps separately at administrative team meetings, one at a time, and we went through, and all of us contributed to what does this mean for us? What things in that theme do we already have in place? What themes, what action steps or recommendations are they making within each of those 5 themes that is an implication for us that we haven't thoroughly thought out or we don't have in place yet? So that took us several months to go through. We started with that. From that, we took a logic model, and we took all of our thoughts from that, and I placed them in a logic model that if this is where we're trying to go, what does that mean? What would our outputs be? What would our outcomes look like? And what would have to be in place? And what are some assumptions that we're making in our thought process about that? So we did that as an administrative team. We, with the 5 of us, it was Paul, Amy, Bill, myself, and Arlene Gruber, the Director of Special Education. So we put it all in a logic model, and then we brought it back to the full administrative team, and we went through that. So we really took a step-by-step, I'm calling it a thought and learning process. I don't know what else to call it. The third thing we did is we took this 2013 New Media Consortium. It's called the NMH Horizon Report K-12 version. They also have a higher ed version. And what are the findings? And they publish this every year, and this was helpful. We read this, and we went through it at the August administrative retreat. And what they talk about in here is what are the ongoing themes in technology and education and its role? What are the primary challenges involved in current educational K-12 systems? And then what's on the horizon in the next 1 to 3 years? What's happening in the next 3 to 5 years? What do we expect to be happening in the next 10 years? So we thought and learned through that. We took all of these ideas and put them into leadership themes, activities, and benchmarks. We also reviewed the Massachusetts Department of Education technology benchmarks, and there were 6 of those. Some of them were the standard things that you know about, infrastructure and those things, and some of them are aligned with the educational technology primary role. We also looked at the national technology goals and standards that Amy found for us. So you can see our vision. I'll just read that in case people can't see it. The Foxborough Public Schools envisions a compelling pre-K-12 learning environment in which students and staff have access to technologies that promote 21st century teaching and learning. This environment leverages technology to provide access to authentic learning experiences that maximize student achievement and prepare students to be productive citizens in a competitive global society. Now, everything in here is open to feedback and input. As I said, this is our first pass, including the vision. So we're really looking for some feedback from the committee. We're also, in the next few weeks, going to invite community members. So if anybody out there is watching has interest in the area, please let me know. We're going to have a small group, a focus group of community members come in and go through the plan with us. We're going to bring it back to the administrative team, and we're also going to put it out for teacher comment and feedback as well, and have it available for public comment. So that's our vision. I won't go through the introduction, but you can see that from the Consortium for School Networking, which is one of the primary sources of educational technology information, the COSIN group talks about 3 waves of educational technology. And the first wave is that infrastructure, the hardware, the software, the networking, the bandwidth, the funding, community support, and educator capacity. The second wave is the supporting and enabling applications. And in the past few years, you've heard a lot about that second wave, applications we've purchased in order to streamline what we do to make it more effective. It includes student information systems, online testing, distance learning, VHS type things that we do, all of the applications we've purchased to manage data. Those are called supporting and enabling applications in wave 2. The third wave is really where we're trying to go. It's the transformative applications that fully infuse and integrate technology into all aspects of the educational system. So that for us is really where our biggest challenge is. I think we've kind of got the infrastructure down, where we've certainly moved along in the last 6 years on the supporting and enabling applications, and now we're really going to try to concentrate in a more thoughtful way on the transformative applications. So we do consider this a working document, and we hope that it will communicate the examination and adaptation of the role technology plays in our schools as we plan and implement to modernize our educational practices. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bertos, who's going to take you through planning and sustainability and some of the major points of the plan, with obviously input from Bill and Paul as she goes through. Amy?
So clearly, when we think about those 3 challenges, those waves, that third one that Debbie was mentioning with the integration of technology, sustainability is really important. How do we monitor that? How do we make sure that it's taking place and it's taking place effectively? So the sustainability plan is really important. What we do have in plan and have had in place for a number of years is the Technology Steering Committee. This particular group is made up of administrators, teachers and meets monthly. Myself and Paul co-chair that group, and that really is a think tank in a sense. So you can see here in this section the purpose of the Technology Steering Committee, and I'll just read because it is kind of small on the screen there for those that might be listening at home. And that really it is a group that examines our technology systems, our current systems that are in place, and how we're using those. When we talk about whether it's hardware, software, or the technology integration, it's also a group that provides guidance on any issues or challenges that arise when it comes to implementation of any of those things. And as far as infusing the technology into our curriculum, it's really important that technology is not separate. It is something that maximizes and engages student learning, and it really motivates, engages them. It also is a group that helps to identify the strengths of where we're doing really well of infusing technology, and then in those areas that are challenging to us as far as from the curriculum, the instruction, the pedagogy side. And then really importantly, to prioritize those needs. And so some of those things that have become priority that we've talked a lot about recently are things such as the new data analytics system with Pearson Inform, and that really drives the data that we look at, and so that we are not just data rich and information poor, but we're really looking at how we're using that data to improve student achievement. So the Technology Steering Committee is one group. We also have other systems in place, such as our Professional Development Committee, and we connect those dots between those groups. Purposes are slightly different, but really it's the same goal, and that is to maximize student learning and what we're doing for our students. So the goals of this plan, as Debbie was talking about all of those different sources that we went to, in anything that we do, we need to triangulate our data and take from different sources. So many of the things that came into play here were those things that she mentioned before. In looking at the National Technology Plan that was done in 2010 from many experts across the country, we looked at those goals, those 5 goals, and saw that they really match up with everything from all of these other sources, and that it made sense for us, because that is what we're doing, to adopt those goals as is. So what I'd like to do is to go through those 5 goals. I will stop after each one, give you a couple of examples, any discussion that you have on each of those goals, and what it looks like from the curriculum instruction and then the infrastructure. So the first goal is that all learners will have engaging and empowering learning experiences both in and outside of school that prepare them to be active, creative, knowledgeable, and ethical participants in our globally networked society. So some of those keywords that you see there might remind you of those 21st century skills, very much. Things that you saw just in our teaching and learning highlight this evening. So clearly, it really is exploiting the flexibility and the power of technology here to reach all of our learners anytime, anywhere. That is the goal. So as a couple of examples, when we look at how the district is encouraging innovative strategies for delivering content and high-quality courses, one of those examples is virtual high school. Looking at the number of seats that we have. Are we meeting the needs of all of our students? Do we need to look at increasing the number? Looking at opportunities for those courses for our students. Another example, when we look at and see there, classroom applications for virtual learning, including courses, projects, field trips, and discussions. That is a piece here for the Technology Steering Committee, looking at how we're investigating different virtual learning opportunities for our students. When is it being used? There are so many different open educational resources that are out there, but to what degree are people using those? It really does transform how students learn. It is a way they're learning so much outside of the classroom in addition to in the classroom. So that potential there to really increase student learning is huge. Another example here in E is, again, it goes back to that Technology Steering Committee and reviewing and looking at it as a very simple example of our digital citizenship curriculum, looking at when does it take place. We worked a lot on our technology skills curriculum for grades K to 4. the internet safety, the being a good digital citizen, talking about how that translates in a digital world versus just being citizens when we talk about our caring school communities, and then taking and transferring that into a digital world. So looking at those existing curriculums and where that takes place, and are we maximizing that? This particular figure is one that, again, is from the National Technology Plan, but it really shows what learning should look like. And you see the student is there at the center of this plan. And that it's not just the student, it's all of these critical pieces that are here. They're at the center and they take control of their own learning, but at the same time, it's talking about how they should learn. So when you see things such as learning communities, we're having students engage with other students through blogging, through wikis that are in place to be able to take learning and maximize time, extended time outside the school day. The knowledge building tools, you might be familiar with some of those things that your own children use to build content knowledge, such as Wolfram Alpha is one that students can go to when they're looking for tutorials in a certain way. There are things like Khan Academy. There's so many free resources that help extend time on learning for students that we are showing those to students so they can learn in multiple ways outside of the classroom. The own videos that our own teachers do. You saw the document camera here in the past, and having students teach other students and uploading those to SchoolTube. Those are so many different ways that we can extend opportunities to show learning in a different way. The personal learning networks. You might be involved in a personal learning network, a PLN yourself. Students being involved in those through collaborative discussions, through Edmodo that's being used here at the high school. And really this group learning, it enhances the students' learning and the partnerships that they're able to form by their participation in blogs and wikis and so many different of these vehicles that we have to extend their learning, whether it's through experts in particular content areas. We know that really the world is flat, and connecting with experts outside of our school walls, whether they're scientists or writers and authors, and there's just, it really is, it's opened up so much that we can do. So I really think that here it's showing how technology helps students express themselves in many different ways, gain more learning outside of the school walls, and that this particular diagram was one that we felt that was really important in depicting how the student learns, and that they're at the center, but it's the teachers and it's the parents and peers and coaches and such that really extend the learning. So that's the first goal. And those are just some of the examples of things that we've started to include. But obviously, as we continue to these different stakeholder groups, there will be more that will go towards each of these goals. So I'll stop there with that first goal for any discussion or questions.
Does this goal, Amy, get into what kind of devices kids have access to at home and extending the learning day and an analysis of that kind of thing?
It does. That's also incorporated into one of the later goals when it gets more into the construction and the curriculum and the different tools such as our ebooks and those kinds of things. But this one is really to show that it's the students in the middle, and there's all of these things outside of the school and also inside of the school that are going to impact their learning.
I also think, Bruce, that one of the things that we looked at in this model, which, as Deb said, is very different than other models, is it's not technology that's driving education. It's education that's driving technology. So, how a student, communicates within all these goals that we're trying to set up are things that we're trying to make the technology actually be able to achieve. So, whether it's a device that they have or a device that we supply, we're trying to look at the ways that we need to meet using technology to get there. So this whole plan basically kind of turns the tables around and says, okay, where are we taking our curriculums? Where are we taking the learning experiences? And what do we need to do in our long-term plans to basically achieve that? And again, yes, we will still have links to the different technology that we have in place today, and our CIP will still reflect the model that we have today as far as what are we looking for going forward, but all of those are based on what the curriculum basically is saying we need to be able to provide.
Thank you.
What I really like, and I loved this packet, this was my favorite thing in the packet this week. What I really like, particularly if we look at that diagram, I think the folks at home probably can see it clearer than the folks here, but we have it here, is that we're not, in this present state, dropping the student. I'm going to not use the word jungle, I'm calling it the arboretum. You're not just dropping the student in the arboretum alone with no resources. It's holistic in the sense that there's mentors and people that support them with this. There's the bring your own technology or down the line we will provide or have available technology for you. But I think one of the important things also is looking forward to this program, the implementation is got to make sure the parents and caregivers are in on this and made aware of this. I had trouble with the domino math in elementary school and my children came home with it, let alone, a tablet device. So I like that there's already a community built around the student. And then I looked, at like the ITSE stuff that's referenced in here and the Pearson stuff, and it always says, let's all come together. And that's the execution and the elegance in the execution. I think we're completely on the right path.
It really is a model that's powered.
Yeah.
The learning is powered by technology. And to your point, talking about the parents' involvement. So when you look at that right there next to the mentors and coaches and the online tutoring and guided courses, one of the examples that comes to mind is, and you heard this earlier and back later at the end of the spring, the fact fluency, the different apps on iPads or online where students could go and they actually emailed their results to Allison Mello and she responded back. So here's a way of having someone else, and we heard from parents being so excited and the kids. Even this past week, one of the students at the middle school, when he saw Mrs. Mello, said, "You emailed me back." Because, and they're still, summer's over, but she still has students going on and accessing these particular tutorials and just sending her the results because it's engaging and they're getting feedback from somebody else that's kind of a mentor or a coach in a different way that's not their teacher.
Amy, I hope you're going to do Parent Technology Night again this year because that also, to your point about getting parents involved, was really instructive as to what's going on in the classroom at all different levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And I found it very helpful. My kids have so far surpassed me in the technology area that seeing what they were doing and learning how I can, help them or they can help me was really great information to have. So I hope you're going to do that. And I think the immediacy is wonderful, too. I know we saw with our kids a lot of the turnitin.com, the feedback that they get from their teachers, like that. And that's the medium that they're used to now. That's how they communicate with each other. That's how they play games and get information. I think we're doing great things, and I'm glad to see it in this format, though. And I can't wait to see what our community members think of this plan and contribute to it, because I think they'll have a lot to say about it.
Glad you mentioned Parent Tech Night, because we should have an action step in there that says about sustaining that and for what purpose.
I hope so. I really
I'm
think
taking notes.
that it's
So-
very
that could be a
valuable.
block, right? I mean, if
Yes.
everybody's stalled at home and the parent or caregiver's stumped. But, and I like that we're not just saying, let's buy a truckload of tablets and back them up to the door and start giving them out. Where it is prudence and temperance and, a certain elegance to the way I read the packet.
Do you want to go through? and-
To your point, as far as that, so here's an example of the Technology Steering Committee. We've had the Technology Parent Night for 2 years in a row. And having parents come out, again, is challenging with the number of nighttime activities or babysitting and those things. And by going back and really reflecting on what kind of message we're trying to get out to parents and to show these things, what's another way that we can engage more parents? So this year, we are intending to do the same thing, but we're going to tweak it a little bit by having students there, for them to show the power of technology and how they're using it in their classrooms. I think that our students here, our high school students tonight, when they were really giving kudos to what they've learned from their teachers, it's true. We're very fortunate to the degree of what they're doing with students and to have the students come in to showcase those applications.
It's a great idea.
Great, thank you.
So the second goal is assessment, and it's really measure what matters. And looking at the assessment data that we're using for continuous improvement. An example here is that we look at the products that we're currently using and how they can improve teaching and learning. One example are the electronic response systems, the Quizdoms that we have. It provides very quick formative assessment where we can check for understanding very quickly. A lot of times students are reluctant. They do not want to raise their hand in class. They may know the answer, or maybe they're not sure. Using a device such as the Quizdoms allows teachers to pose a question. The kids have these little clickers. They answer the question. The teacher can see who's answering it correctly, who's not. It's a quick way to check for understanding. The kids like it because it's like a game show in a sense, but it provides another way to get information as far as where's their learning and any stumbling blocks that they have right then and there. So that's a way to have a formative, telling us what we need to do next for assessment. The conducting an audit for our current assessment system and how we're using our formative assessments and our summative assessments, those when learning is still taking place and those of when we're checking for understanding at the end, a summative, and using analytics. That's the Pearson Inform. We had a full training where we trained all of our teachers in August on using that system where all of our information about students, where we can track student progress over time, where we can look and see where are they. If they're starting to falter at a particular time of year, we can look back at their course, their academic course, and see not just report card grades, but whether it's MCAS, whether it's our own district assessments, anything, writing samples that we do, and having that within this system, those analytics and the conversations that we have around student work is very powerful in the direction that we move. Goal 3, teaching, prepare, and connect. This is really looking at our professional educators being supported and in the teams by technology that connects them to data, content, resources, expertise, learning experiences that enable and inspire more effective teaching for learners. We've had the good fortune of having colleagues teach colleagues. We really do have our teachers stepping up. When we talk about students will listen to students, colleagues will listen to colleagues. And when they're using something effectively in their classroom and seeing student results, they're going to want to see that practice and learn from that. Our own teachers, not only are they teaching teachers here, you've heard it from them through LSDO, our local staff development opportunities, going out and teaching teachers in other communities. They learn from other teachers just by teaching them as well. So it provides opportunities for them to learn about other resources that are free from their colleagues next door, through professional learning communities meeting together, again, learning things to enrich content and to extend students' learning outside of the classroom. Looking at our own curriculum and assessing opportunities for problem-based learning, inquiry, and the application of 21st century skills. That's one of the things that we're focusing on. We talk about the critical thinking and the 21st century skills, the amount of opportunities and how students are being able to be creative and show their own way what they've learned in many different ways. So it's giving some common definitions with 21st century skills to students, but to make sure that there's a collective understanding across teachers and what that looks like in a classroom and learning from each other. Technology literacy, looking at our students, and we assess them in 4th and 8th grade on a 21st century skill assessment. That's something that's done each year, and it measures our students as they're leaving elementary and they're leaving the middle school on specific 21st century skills. Where are we doing really well? Where are areas of challenge? And looking at our curriculum and how that impacts our instruction and what's taking place. So we have measurable goals here. At least 90% of our 8th graders to show proficiency in all of the technology literacy standards. looking at the skills by fourth grade, and then our teaching staff, looking at their mastery of skills identified within these assessments, because how students are doing are a direct reflection of what we're doing in the classroom with teachers. So as you can see, as this gets into the teaching and learning, there's many, many more goals and action steps that connect here to this particular goal. And this goes back to professional development and making sure that it's sustained over time, and that we're supporting our educators through just-in-time workshops, through professional development days that we have during the school year, and that any of these common technologies that are used, such as the Quizdoms, that teachers understand how to use them. And then a train-the-trainer model would be one of the action steps that you see there. Create the train-the-trainer model for common technologies such as the Quizdoms, the document cameras, and providing accessible go-to people in each of the buildings. It's not surprising that you have some teachers that jump right on to particular technologies and they see particular applications right away. Others might not see it as quickly. But when they see something that's taking place with one teacher, then they're more apt to say, I think I can do the same thing because I definitely see that can be used in this particular area. So professional development and that ongoing train the trainer is really important. In E, this is really referencing that we're looking at the NET standards, which are the National Education Technology Standards. There are standards that are set for teachers, for administrators, for students, and now most recently for coaching. These standards tell us what students should know and be able to do in the area of technology. One thing I'd like to point out throughout this plan is you'll see in the footnotes that there are links. We want this to be a working document, one that not only you can look at here, but as we update other things, whether it's our mission statement on the website, whether it's other documents that have to do with the CIP and the budget and those things, that we're linking to those. So if you want more information, all you have to do is click on this document because it's live to go directly to those. So here, as an example, at the bottom of this particular page, it links to all of the NET standards. What do those look like for students, teachers? If I click on those, it will take me directly to that document. I can look to see, well, what are expected? Here, this is ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education. It's an international organization that really is the leader in education. So if I go to the NETS standards for teachers, I will be able to look at the standards for all of the different indicators here. What does it look like to facilitate and inspire learning and creativity? And then it goes through and it just explains these are the expectations for teachers and what they should be doing in classrooms to enhance content and learning. So all of those links are live.
I went to those and really found it. I printed out the NETS A for administrators, and did. I had hard copy, so I had to type it in like a caveman. But yeah, really quick, easy to get at, and rich. The bites that we had here, I thought it was good stuff, particularly at a high level to start looking at.
I think to Amy's point, the reason that the concept on the links is going to be very valuable for us is that obviously, you know, what we were thinking about technology-wise 5 years ago is very different than what we're doing today. And so having a document that's live and that we can continue to change instantly. If we decide, as we did late in the spring, that to move wireless forward on the high school side of things, wasn't in the document, wouldn't have been in the document at that point in time. Now, not only can be updated quickly and people can see that we're making the moves and why we're doing it, instead of having a fixed document that doesn't change.
I think when you look across all of these standards, it really shows that these are not discrete skills. This is what should be embedded within teaching and learning. So I kind of went through goals 2 and 3 there without stopping. Any questions on 2 and 3? Goal 4, this is where I'm going to turn part of this over to these gentlemen on either side of me as we look at the infrastructure here, because this really is looking at having that comprehensive infrastructure in order to support what's taking place. But you know what? Let me just back up for just a minute before we go there, because I skipped over, and it's really important that I don't. The second diagram here. And the first one showed the student at the center. And this one here is showing the teacher at the center. And this is really showing that we have all of these things around us that support the teacher. The learning community is there for teachers just as it is for students. It's looking at how we're teaching particular concepts. Teachers looking to other teachers. Some of us have looked at, well, I didn't do math that way. I don't know how they're teaching math. The different ways that teachers teach. Teachers can go and look. I mean, that's something that we had when I was in the classroom. We didn't have this opportunity to go and look at. I have a student struggling. They're not understanding the concept. What's another way to teach this? The opportunities really are they're out there, and you can connect to anyone and looking at different ways to try to reach students. And the teacher-created content that's there, it's amazing. We talk about what we learn from teachers next door, what teachers learn from other teachers from what they've created. I think that some people, they just live and breathe this, and they create content that's there that's unbelievable. I've heard teachers talking about, oh, I went on Pinterest and I'm looking at just the classroom and how they set it up, and I want to live in that classroom. You know, the things that they're able to learn. It really is amazing.
Yeah, it even notes how the cross-pollination happens almost naturally if people bite into it. What do they call it? Becoming facilitators and collaborators, for each other. It's really cool stuff.
And the increase in teachers taking, whether they're hybrid courses or online courses, you've had some that would not go anywhere near an online course. Mm-hmm. And they maybe started off through a hybrid course where it's a little bit of FaceTime and a little bit online. And they started to realize that I can really learn a lot through online courses. And if you've taken online courses, the amount of work, because it's like you're on 24/7. Constantly having to post discussion, and it becomes much richer because of the kinds of discussion that will take place. So it really is connecting teachers to other experts in the field, and as a result, impacting students in a very positive way.
Okay, goal 4 is, as you can see, is the infrastructure and access to enable students to succeed throughout this process. So, as you see, a number of the benchmarks, but the first one that we're looking at here deals with the access of every student to be able to get online and to be able to deal with the systems. One of the things that we all know is coming at us is the new park exams, and in that, obviously, there's a need to basically be able to put much larger levels of students on testing facilities at the same time. So having a plan that basically will get us there. One of our steps towards the wireless environment we felt would give us some of that accessibility, not having to be locked into labs and rooms that way. Having the ability to deal with individual users that might have devices they can bring in, and then some that obviously we might have to supplement. So it gave us some thought on how we'd have to achieve some of these goals in that sense. When you look at the benchmark on the general education curriculum for all students, including students with disabilities, you all know a couple years ago you adopted the iPad concept for our SPED programs. Again, being able to take even those type of programs further within our district and give additional access and additional capabilities is one of the standards that our technology infrastructure is going to have to be able to maintain, not just in the smaller levels that we've done it already. I think in all cases, you'll see that one of the problems with infrastructure and access basically is that there's always a dollar value tied to this. So as the plan originally said, tying everything to a way of doing this, but a way that we can afford to do this also is very important. So prioritizing our entire network of whether it's computers or connections, software, the whole thing. We have to look really into this structure on a core basis and on a program basis to decide where that money goes each year and how to best spend it. So most of these priorities, you'll see that basically it's life cycles. You've seen a lot of it in the past. You know, we know our computers basically with a 5-year life, but what's that next phase going to be like? We've already started to allude to the fact that we won't be looking to replace computers every 5 years. At some point here, we're going to make the switch to this one-on-one, whether it's, you know, the ability and access for other people to bring in their own devices. And again, that's a key component to this. So we're always, again, trying to use our CIP and our community outreach to let them understand how our budget process is going and what the plan is to move this whole process forward.
Bill? I think it's good that what you've been doing with the infrastructure, you know, building a good, strong skeleton first, because if the infrastructure is strong and future-proofed, it will allow for more money for that one-on-one gear that we may need down the road if we have slot cards instead of
Absolutely. I think the
switches without blades in them or something like that. Future-proof stuff.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we looked at a lot of what other communities have done, and I mean, one of the fortunate things in building a new building, as an example, is you get the ability to just jump out and get some support from the state on your first round. The problem is, and you go back to the original comment on sustainability here, is while that's really nice and that the state supported maybe doing a whole high school with a one-on-one capability, well, 5 years from now or 4 years from now, you're going to have to do something again, and that state funding is gone. Our plan really needs to look at it more from the perspective, and I don't want to say that I'm happy we didn't just get everything in one shot and then now have to figure it out. That's not the right thing. But what really is that we're happy that we're actually being able to take this step by step and move forward. Now, to your point, we're unfortunately not starting at the core, going all the way back and saying, well, how much, you know, should our information highway look like as far as coming into the building? We're kind of backfeeding a little bit. But we at least think we have a good plan that's solid based on, you know, the ideas and concepts before this. Internet access is obviously one of the main ways, obviously, all this information is going to flow going forward. So the connectivity, again, I think the wireless does a lot for us. We know we need to move that down in the levels, not only the high school, but down to the middle school. And at some point, we're also looking at what the concept will look like on the elementary level. We know it's not the same on each of the 3 levels. So again, you know, looking at the way the technology group will kind of lay this out on how they see it interacting is very important. You know, how we actually move forward with, you know, the speed of our processing. Now we're actually almost in a test mode now with the wireless just starting to come online here. We'll start to get an impact over the next, you know, few months, exactly what our capabilities are today and what will they need to be. And again, that will help us to understand what the plan is for the next 3 to 5 years on the data that needs to be able to move through these systems during the day and even after school, because as you know, some of the programs that have been put together, you know, last year, one of the ones that was introduced, basically gave the children and the students the ability to come into our networks after hours to get their own homework and their own data and look at things that way. That also is using our bandwidth, you know, to move within it. So, you know, as we go here, we're going to continue to expand, and if, you know, of areas that we're concerned of, obviously, as our ability to get all the information moving at the speeds that everybody's expecting it to happen at.
Can I ask a question? There's a lot of material here, and I'm trying to kind of, for people at home listening, and as we look at these action plans and the timeline, and you mentioned, Bill, about the 3 to 5 years and all of this data that you're going to hopefully gather now, I'm assuming to then provide the basis for how we're going to be moving forward in this 3 to 5 year plan. These dates, is this something that at a future meeting that we're going to be seeing? Because these are a lot, each of these identified benchmarks are obviously the goals that and actions that you're going to take to achieve our goals. But how does this kind of fit into this broader timeline that's in each of these benchmarks in terms of real specifics about how we're going to move from 2013 to 2014, 2015 to 2016, where we really get more? Is that the work to be done kind of down the road?
That's a good question, because some of actually our timelines and some in the benchmarks you see actually come from the Department of Ed's expectations, which sometimes when you read them, it's like we're not going to be able to achieve that, you know, by that certain time. I think they sometimes have a glorified, you know, vision of how all the school districts can snap to and make all this suddenly appear. So some of all the benchmarks you see are noted, go with the Massachusetts expectations for benchmarks. But you're right, our timelines right now are kind of general because this is our first pass. So what we did was go through and say, we need to worry about the content and not all the details right now in the first pass. So what we kind of did was say, are we going to be able to move ahead with this particular action step this year? If yes, let's put it down. If it's going to take us 2 years, then you'll see a 2-year span. If we think we're not going to get to it till a year from now or 2 years from now, then you'll see that noted. So right now, there's sort of our generic ballparks about when we think we're going to start moving on some of these action items. But there is a lot here.
Right.
So you don't see specific months necessarily yet, because this is our first pass at trying to get the content in there properly. So some of the things we didn't worry about. So for example, the question mark, provide wireless connectivity in all classrooms in the elementary schools. We haven't really begun to talk about that yet in detail. So I had no problem I put the question mark there because I felt that we haven't really had that discussion. And do we want or think we need wireless in the elementary? And we probably do, but without the conversation, we're guessing that it's not going to look like it does at the high school, where every classroom have to have the capacity for every student. It's probably going to look something like maybe along the corridor. So if somebody happens to have something and they need to wireless, there's an access point, but not to the extent it would be here. So because we really haven't talked about it in terms of that's something we're definitive on, but the Department of Ed says, yes, that you should be thinking about it, I put a question mark because I really don't know. Right now, it's not a big priority, so I don't even know when we'll get around to really discussing the particulars of that one, so I put a question mark.
I mean, that's a great point, Debbie. It's almost like, can we view this almost as our strategic plan for technology? And it's fluid, it's going to be changing.
Right.
As we move along, we'll be inserting dates, we'll be identifying responsible parties, we'll be looking at the current status. It's kind of our roadmap right now in
Yes.
terms of how we want to view technology for the next 5 years.
Perfectly stated.
And you'll also see, I mean, as this evolves and you know, assuming everything we're doing is tying to it, all of our other things will. Our budget, you know, you'll see it reflect on whether it's, you know, potentially a staffing or support services or whatever will tie to how these goals lay out. The CIP budget, as you know, is a 5-year budget. It lays it out. And you'll see that a lot of these things are laid out in there already, obviously will be modified as we move through this and this gets refined further, but they're already out there as goals that we know we need to do to achieve, you know, the backbone of what this is basically telling us to do. So it's not technology is telling curriculum what to do, it's
Right.
curriculum is telling us what to do on the technology side. So.
And that's the other point I was going to make, which I love, which is that the educational requirements, as you might, or benchmarks, are providing the rationale for these action plans.
Right.
And they're providing the rationale for why funding will be spent on particular X, Y, or Z technology to support that education in the classroom, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, it's just, there's a lot of information for people at home who's, you know, we're kind of walking through. I just wanted to kind of provide an opportunity for people to understand kind of the bigger picture, because there is so much detail. Certainly appreciate all of the work that's gone into develop this. A lot of important information here.
I think something, when we're talking about the bring your own device, we have to look at our broadband connection. Is it going to be
Right.
able to support that? When you have, Paul's talked with us a lot as far as the number of devices that are on the network at once and being able to have that simultaneous traffic, if you will, be able to handle that.
We currently have 1,292 workstations. Just lighting the wireless at the high school with full wireless, every classroom, is the potential of the number of students and staff of well over 1,000 more devices on our network in a very short amount of time. So just very close to doubling, and not even counting the number of connections each device makes. So it is a little bit mind-boggling.
1,292 as it stands right now.
Yes.
But we're going to start,
How many
Paul's
devices that
recommendation,
we
we're gonna start with
manage and
one.
own? Correct.
so that each student can bring one
Desktop
device.
workstations.
We're going to see how that goes, and we do try to be thoughtful and proceed carefully, so.
I think that's one reason why you are successful. You're not jumping in with, you're stopping, looking, and listening before you cross the street. You're not jumping in with both feet.
And another piece here on our networking, when you look at it, an example here of remote access. This is something that teachers are so excited, being able to access their computer from home and access their files through file sharing. But the other piece now is being able to access software. So if there's a particular software on their computer at school, that it's a school software piece, but they're wanting to access it from home, they may not have that software on their computer at home. They're going to, in the future, be able to log in through remote access and access that software and utilize it.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I think that the key there is obviously, we all have different levels of computers at home. It's not like, at least in the schools, we're able to somewhat homogenize the entire base of systems out there, even though they're different ages. We're running basically the same operating systems and stuff like that. But when you get to 2,700 students in X amount of homes, you can pretty much be sure that someone's got a 10-year-old, someone's got a 1-month-old, and that whole process of how they can access the exact same thing every day. Again, it's up to technology to come up with ways of doing it, and this type of a remote process where they can actually run our software, not their software, eliminates that type of an issue. And so these are the steps that, when you look at what Paul and his group have had to do and have to constantly do through the process here, every single one of them is, how do I make sure it's still available to everybody? And how do I step backwards? Because we can come up with the greatest technology, but if only 10% can use it, it really doesn't do us much good.
So this ensures that you're going to be working for a long, long time, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know about working for a long, long time, but working an awful lot. That would be probably
Everybody
the
has
correct
plenty
analogy.
to do.
Again, the third piece of the anywhere, anytime, as far as access, is from any device, as Bill alluded to, and that's an extreme challenge, where if we pick the device, then we can manage the device and we can make it work in one single fashion. The challenge with many devices is what he alluded to, but in a way where we're using the horsepower that we provide, so that then minimizes the quality of the device that's on the other end. So it's an area that we've been working at for quite a long time, and we will continue to work at, but we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And also,
Goal 5.
Yeah.
I want to point out on Go 4 is that, when we look at what the Department of Ed requires in the technology plan, it's looking towards the safety and security of our students. And so you see there that it's not outlined in an action plan, because that is something that we take obviously very seriously, is balancing connectivity with student safety. So you also see those pieces from the Department of Ed requirements that we have, where we have to be SIPA compliant. And looking at the internet and the network use and student safety. So goal 5, our education system at all levels will redesign processes and structures to take advantage of the power of technology to improve learning outcomes while making more efficient use of time, money, and staff. And within this goal here, we're really looking at how we're using our staff and being resourceful and being fiscally responsible, and looking at the hardware and software applications that we use and how we use that in conjunction with professional development and our contracted services, whether there's the subscriptions that we use. When we think about some of our online subscriptions, such as the K-12 Insight, that is a subscription we pay, but the information that we get back from that is enormous, and it really provides great information to us as far as in culture and climate, and looking at how we're meeting more than just the student achievement needs. So that's really looking at how we're being efficient with our time and with our staff too, with the technology integration specialists, looking at how to maximize time and resources of things that we have in place, and making sure that any of the purchases that we make, whether they're human resources or computer resources, that all of that is really, we're getting the best for our dollar.
Wow, it's very impressive.
Extremely.
This is the first draft, so is this, you want feedback at some point, either tonight or in the future?
In the next couple of weeks.
Next couple of
As
weeks.
you read and reread, because it's such fascinating
Yes.
reading. If you want to send me an email or stop by and meet with either Bill or Paul or Amy or myself and give us your thoughts that you have, we'd appreciate it. And if there are stakeholders out there that would like to provide some input in the plan, we'd welcome that. So I have a few names already, and we will bring some of those people in and have a focus group where the four of us sit with them and really listen to feedback on what the plan says and whether we have adequately represented the role of technology as we see it, and as, to Bill's point, we see technology being in service of the curriculum delivery. And if it isn't, then we ought not to do it. So we don't want to do technology for technology's sake. It's only if it's in service of some of the goals that we have or the general curriculum. So I also plan to ask Mrs. Myers-Packle if she can get an interested student group together and have them look at this in a small group and give us some feedback. And I'll also be bringing it to the parent leaders group next month in October. This month we have kind of other updates going on. So that's our plan. Anybody who wants to weigh in, we'd welcome it. We expect a better iteration of this by the end of October, and then, as we said, it's going to be a live document. I want to credit Paul for the live link idea. I think that's great. And it wasn't the easiest thing to do, and there's sometimes the four of us would like to tear our hair out or each other's, but it all worked well. I think what you see is a compilation of the four of us really thinking through every little piece and everything we've learned and as our thinking has evolved. So it finally is our first step at trying to communicate where we're trying to go, and we hope that we continue to be able to do that effectively.
I want to thank you for all the time and effort
I
that
mean,
you
that's-
obviously
this is
put into
ours.
this, and the research and the foundation that you've used to create this document from the beginning of, so it's very impressive, and I look forward to.
Is the steering
other
committee
input.
already in place?
Yeah.
The tech steering committee
But
started
who's on it
in-
from the board?
Well, no,
Not-
we
it's
don't
an
have anyone on it.
educational.
But it says they're asking for board members. I'd like to be on it if Schoolcom can be
Well, let
on
me
it.
explain that a little bit better. The tech steering committee started in September of '08, actually, my first full fall here. Paul and I started it and co-chaired it, and then when Amy took over as assistant, she continues to co-chair it with Paul. So our tech steering committee deals with a lot of the internal, what are we doing for teachers? We have teachers on it, and as well as administrators. But what you see on page,
Right here.
I'll find it, on page 6,
Yep.
under planning and sustainability, what we would like to do, if you look at that second paragraph under the planning and sustainability headline, the tech steering committee, as it is now with teachers, administrators, and co-chaired by Amy and Paul, needs to continue its current role, which is to really look at everything we're doing and parts of what we're doing. However, that is the same committee. We don't want to invent a new committee, for example, to monitor this plan. But that is the same committee that should also be charged with keeping track of what's in here and inviting a wider range of stakeholders. So what our plan is to keep the tech steering committee together as is, and most of their meetings will be about our internal business, as all of our teams and committees are, but that twice a year, we would like it to temporarily expand to include, we're calling it adjunct advisory members. So we would like a school committee member or two, and this is also a team that exists to inform the leadership team or the superintendent about our direction. So it's not something we have to post again, because it's in service of guiding the superintendent, if you will. So 1 or 2 school committee members would be great. We hope that some of our community leaders that expressed interest in looking at the first draft of the plan would also come forward, and 1 or 2 parents, that twice a year, we sort of blow up that committee a little bit to look at this for sustainability and for ongoing planning. So that's what we mean by that. So we're calling the other people adjunct advisory members to provide ongoing community involvement and to provide feedback on the tech plan in an ongoing fashion.
Okay, so we will need representation from the school committee. Are you looking for that tonight, or, I mean, if
It's a lot to take in.
Anytime.
Anytime at all.
Steve, you have an interest in participating?
I would love it. I'd love to know when the first thought of meeting is for the adjunct.
Don't know that yet.
Is there anybody else on the committee that would like to? Okay, so anybody else? We're going to have a
I'll let the tech
competition.
guys handle it.
I mean, I would love it for Bruce and Steve to represent us.
Absolutely.
It's all yours, baby.
Consensus,
All
Bev?
yours.
Bev? consensus that Bruce and Steve will represent?
I would love,
Absolutely.
thank you,
Excellent.
gentlemen.
Thank you very
She's
much.
happy it's not her.
Okay.
Thank you.
Katie, can I
My
just offer a
brain
quick
works
thought? I know you're
this
trying to
way.
move us
Yes.
along. First of all, I think some of you know, and I want to put out a disclaimer or full acknowledgement. This is what I do for IBM for a living. I don't think you're buying anything from us, so I think I'm okay to comment. Otherwise, I'd abstain. But, you know, I travel the country working with school districts on this exact thing. And originally, when I first started in education with IBM, we were in that phase one where we sold the computers that you were buying through CIP. And now we're focused on that stage 3, which is how you make transformational change to teaching and learning. And it's a pretty cool thing. I enjoy it. I'm lucky I get to do something that I enjoy as well. A couple thoughts. First of all, I think this is spot on. And you guys didn't ask me for any materials to guide you. You did it on your own, and it's awesome. I think it's really, really well done. And some of the terms that you used in the presentation, you know, are things that you can, I suppose, pick up from reading a trade rag or something, but it's clear you know what they are. I mean, Paul, when you talked about anytime, anywhere, any device learning, that's exactly the goal. I would just offer quickly right now, I think there are 3 areas from my experience that I think we should prioritize. And this isn't a scientific thought on my part, it's quick reaction. So I will participate in the adjunct group and provide further thought. But I think one is bring your own device. I think that needs to be one of our top 3 priorities. And I know that's a bandwidth issue, but I think that's coming fast and furious from what I see from other districts.
Absolutely.
The second is on the top of the page with your second diagram, Amy, where the teachers are at the center. And the first sentence, I think, captures it real well. It says, in connected teaching, classroom educators are fully instrumented with 24/7 access to data about student learning and analytic tools that help them act on the insights the data provide. I think those teacher tools, whether they're portals to the systems, is, again, top priority. And you got a lot of priorities in here, but I think that one is really, really important. I think that's where we get to transformative change. And then third, which underlies really that second one, is your Pearson system and the analytics and getting insight. And we're even seeing now leading school systems that are doing predictive analytics, where you can set up modeling so you can see an intervention required before it even gets to that point based on if a student in 3rd grade is missing this and has these socioeconomic factors and these backgrounds and these learning management styles and that kind of thing. You can really derive some pretty cool, and that's down the road. But I think you've got all the
That's
key
amazing.
points in here. I think those 3 are the ones that will make a lot of difference. I think, like Katie said, I think this is a great report to guide us. I think the devil's in the details, and there is a lot of work, Bev. You're right, Paul. Paul or whoever follows Paul is going to be busy for a while, but
You will not be out of a job.
thank you. But you'll have to
You also can't
decide
retire.
how much you want us involved in this, and I think some of these details will have enough of an impact on how we go through day-to-day teaching and learning that it will be worth the committee looking at. Some of it, certainly not, but I'd say those 3 are 3 that jump out at me as you go through. But anyway, thank you.
I think
Thank
what
you
might
for
be
your
great
expertise,
is if we
Bruce.
have the adjunct advisors working with them after maybe the first meeting, to have you provide the update to the committee as to what the work is of that group.
Yeah.
And how you see the role evolving. Because this is clearly not,
Well, if
this
the
is
you
not
is
a
a
plan
broad
that
you,
one
I'm
person's
fine with that.
responsible
Yeah.
for. This is.
I don't want this to be
Yeah.
Bruce's plan or IBM's plan or whatever.
Right, right.
If that's a broad you. But I would love to share what we're seeing in leading districts and bring that here. You know, it's interesting. The smaller districts are having the hardest time. And I guess this won't surprise. The biggest districts, which is where I spend a lot of my time, have so much resource to throw at this. You know, the smaller districts, you'd say, well, it's easier. They've got fewer schools, fewer kids. But they've also got fewer resources. So,
Right.
But I give you guys a lot of credit. I think that's a great report. I think it's a very good framework.
Yep, Steve?
Just to add to Bruce's 3 great hits, right on the money too, right? I mean, there's a lot of love here right now. This is good stuff, right? I also think we should add a 4th, and that is budgeting and forecasting. You know, we got to look down the road. You know, the chair mentioned, you know, where are these timelines? And right now they're fluid or in sand right now until we nail them down. But, you know, we have to start thinking about how much money we're going to need in 3 years for a turnkey and, you know, to get a fat pipe in here with, you know, big data and all that. So,
Right on.
so nobody's like, you know, 125K for that, you know, whatever.
Some of it will be money, but some of it also is capacity.
Absolutely,
To your point,
yeah.
in a smaller district.
And support ability. I mean, we might need more talent.
I'm feeling very confident with our two representatives on this committee, and I adjunct committee, so I look forward to getting more feedback, and I think that's a great idea. You guys bring back
We got good, it's
information.
really good done. The team
Yeah.
here is
Thank you so
terrific.
much for
Thank
for
you.
all of that.
Thank you,
Yes,
all of you.
for all your hard work
It's been
and
a
your
long
continued
road.
hard
You can
work.
see why I said to you in August, we're not quite ready
Yes.
for the end of August, if you could just give us one more meeting.
Yes.
I understand
Okay.
why.
Devil
the
is in the
magic button.
details.
Yes.
There's a lot of detail and there's a lot of devil.
Right, but this is what makes a successful program,
Yes,
is the time taking,
Get
you.
there.
yes.
taking attention to this
I'm happy we have a roadmap. That was
Yes.
our intention.
Well, and speaking of details, Bev is next to move on to our last item. of the
which is a
evening,
pleasurable.
Superintendent's evaluation. So if Bev, you could lead us in the evaluation of Ms. Spinelli,
Right. And
Superintendent.
I want, when I say DESE, I want everybody to know that's what, a couple of years ago, the Department of Ed is known as now. So DESE, when I say it, is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Well, it is a pleasure. We have a wonderful superintendent. She's had another second strong year, and we have all of us have evaluated her. And this was the second year of us using the new Massachusetts DESE evaluation framework. This model assesses progress toward established goals, performance against 4 state-determined standards to arrive at an overall summative evaluation, which I am delivering now. The results for each of these areas will be summarized below. In progress towards established goals, there were 6 established goals. 1 in the area of professional practice, 1 in the area of student goals, which will come into play at the state level in 2014. So that was not evaluated, but she's already being mindful of that and looking forward to that. 3 in the area of district improvement, and 1 in the area of other goals. These goals were evaluated to arrive at one of the following ratings: exceeded, met, significant progress, some progress, and did not meet. Committee members rated Mrs. Spinelli's performance as met for each of the 5 applicable goals. Performance against 4 state-determined standards. They are in the area of instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Each standard area had several indicators which were individually assessed by each member of the committee. Available assessment ratings were exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. From these individual indicator assessments, an overall assessment was arrived at for each of the 4 standards. Overall, in the area of instructional leadership, Mrs. Spinelli was assessed as proficient. For the area of management and operations, Mrs. Spinelli was assessed as proficient. For the area of family and community engagement, Mrs. Spinelli was assessed as exemplary. And for the area of professional culture, Mrs. Spinelli was assessed as exemplary. Now, there were several, under each standard, there were exemplary areas noted by standard. And I would like, she has several, I would like to indicate, please, to all of you, what an outstanding leader we have. In instructional leadership, under curriculum, Slattery. That was standard 1. Standard 2, management and operations, Human Resources Management and Development Indicator, Adair Lord Slattery, rated exemplary. Law Ethics Policies, Bellinger Gardner. Fiscal Systems, Adair Bellinger. There were so many, I hope I have most of them here. In Standard 3, Family and Commitment Engagement. In Engagement, exemplary by Bellinger Gardner Lord Slattery. Sharing Responsibility, Lord Slattery. Communication, Adair Bellinger Lord. Family Concerns, Gardner Lord. Under the Standard 4, Professional Culture, Commitment to High Standards, Adair Bellinger Slattery. Cultural Proficiency, Gardner. Communication, Adair Bellinger Gardner Lord Slattery. This remains a very high strength of our leader. Continuous Learning, Adair Bellinger Lord Slattery, and Shared Vision, Slattery. The overall summative performance. Using the above assessments, the committee members assessed Mrs. Spinelli as proficient. There were many comments. Many thoughtful comments were written in the allotted space allotted for each, and I'd like to just read a couple of the highlights. Mrs. Spinelli stepped forward to be the first person to undergo the educator evaluation process. This is one example of her strong point of leading by example. Foxborough chose to complete 100% of the new evaluation process so that they could all learn it together, even though the state required us to do only 50%. And I think all the administrators, that is commendable for everybody. They need to be commended here too. Mrs. Spinelli actively participates in the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office School Safety Task Force. It is very meaningful and very essential. She wrote a grant for a school resource officer in concert with the police chief and the assistant superintendent. The professional culture remains one of the strongest in the entire school sector. Contract negotiations with all bargaining groups, and this is highly exceptional, were successful. They were concluded within 2 to 3 months and without the need for legal assistance. This is an almost unprecedented action in public education. And it speaks to, I think, the trust that we have helped been able to establish. And another thing, the way the school is going now, in the past 6 years, we have changed focus, gone forward. I mean, this was just, I just became aware of this today. Foxborough High School ranks second in the state graduation rate. And I remember it not being this percentage at all, of 99%. We were beaten out only by Medfield. They had 99.1%. So I think that statistic speaks to the kind of curriculum that has been established and it is being followed. So, kudos to Mrs. Spinelli for a strong second year.
Thank you so much, and for your support. Couldn't do it without all the people here at the table and all of our team, our administrators. I feel lucky.
Well, we're lucky. The administrators, the teachers, and the students are lucky because you chose to come and be with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I'm going to the school safety task force tomorrow morning with police chief.
Oh, well, good.
First meeting of the year at the DA's office, with the DA's office. I thank you so much. And I want to thank individual committee members as well, because the meetings I had the opportunity to have individually with you also provides me with another level of feedback that I found really, really helpful and important, and reminded me of some things that, and we all have some growth areas, and it really, that was very helpful to me, the individual conversations as well as the overall. But I think when I took over 2 years ago, I worried about my technical, applications and skills, and what I've learned is it's really a job done with the heart, and it's really a meaningful bit of work, and I really am enjoying it. I do love my job, so.
It shows.
I
It
certainly
shows.
do it with your
Yes.
heart, definitely.
Yes, it does.
100%.
definitely. Thank you, Ms. Lord, for that compilation.
And thank you, the 5 committee members, each, including Mrs. Slattery, was very helpful in this evaluation.
Very much so.
Because we were the 5 that served
Right.
That's correct.
during that year.
I appreciate it.
So given that evaluation, then we need to speak about compensation for this year. So I'm going to kind of open that up to the committee to have a discussion, and hopefully we can move from there.
Well, I don't mind beginning that, if it's okay.
Certainly.
First of all, Deb, great job. I think, as your first chair, and then Bevy as your second chair, you made this process easy. And you're right, Tina, she does it with the heart. I think that's very well said. And I would say, don't change.
Okay.
I don't know, we don't have access to school superintendent data across the state, but to have a second-year superintendent who gets rated 2 proficients and 2 exemplaries in her second year is, it's, the 4 categories we have are so distinct that, if we had more granularity between proficient and exemplary, I think you'd see it probably more up toward the exemplary scale. But I just, I know I speak on behalf of all of us that you're doing a terrific job, and we're very thankful to have you. So, as the public knows, we've had a couple of executive sessions the last few weeks to begin talking about Mrs. Spinelli's compensation, but also her length of contract, which expires at the end of this year.
That's correct.
The committee has considered a number of factors. Let's talk with the compensation
Yes,
first.
yeah, well, we talk about that first, yes.
One of the things that we complimented the superintendent on is our ability to renegotiate all our union contracts, which was terrific, well done, minimized expense to the town, minimal legal requirement, which speaks well to so many things, your relationship with them, your clarity of communication, well thought out negotiation strategy. And, our feeling as a committee, I think, was that you are due a raise. You have not had one since taking this position.
Good point, Bruce.
And we wanted to send you a strong signal through both the compensation and the contract status. And we felt it was appropriate to consider something similar to what we gave the largest bargaining unit, the teacher group. So one of the things I'd like to do as part of this discussion is make a motion, and then we can have further discussion as a committee, that we consider a 2.4% raise for Mrs. Spinelli for the current school year. The teachers received a 2.5% raise. Knowing her like we do, I'm not sure she would want the same or certainly more. But we've looked at area superintendents. We have looked at and considered the fact that you've not received a raise the last couple of years. And so I'd like to make a motion for the committee that we approve a 2.4% raise for this school year for Mrs. Spinelli. We also think that's commensurate with the rest of the non-union staff that have received increases. So that's the motion I'll put forward, and I don't know if you want to discuss it or second it. I'll leave that up to you all.
Well, I'd like to second that, but it's open for discussion anyway.
Absolutely, we'll have some discussion. So I'm gonna open up to the committee, to, if people want to weigh in. I mean, I certainly feel that you raised some good points, Bruce. Definitely the evaluation process and how the leader of the district has been the role. We talk about role models. We talked about it today, and certainly Debbie is a role model. And we talked about the contracts and the communication and the trust and the culture that's been established, and that has lended itself to be able to move ahead with these contracts without legal, however we want to kind of phrase it. I mean, she's been the voice that has been, along with obviously the school committee members that have been present, but she, you know, you have built a foundation. That's really, when we talk about this in so many different areas of what everyone does on a day-to-day basis, this kind of foundation. And I certainly support this motion because I think that it's representative and well-earned for all the work that you've done. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if other people want to weigh in as well.
I agree with you. I agree with what Bruce has had to say. I think it's a recognition of the value that you add to our school system, and I can't say it any better than Katie and Bruce have said, but I support it as well.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none then, all those in favor of 2.4 increase? 5-0.
Thank you very much. I guess I have to say, I really thank you for the acknowledgement, really, of our hard work, but I have two of the strongest central office partners sitting right here, in Amy and Bill, than one could ever hope to have. And I also, and I know I thank the committee for your support, and I sincerely mean that, because individually and collectively, you really are very supportive. But I don't often get a chance to thank the teachers. And they are the other half of this collaborative relationship that we've built. And I wouldn't ask for a better faculty to work with than they are. So they amaze and delight me every single day, including at our open houses and when I visit their classes. So I think it really takes a village. And so the village has done well by me.
Wow.
So thank you, village.
You're doing well by the village. Thank you very much.
Doesn't sound right, village people, but you know what I mean. No costumes required.
Well, thank you. Thank you
It's
for
been
that.
great. It's been a fast 2 years.
Yes. Which leads us
Well, it's
to our.
good. Kids, you never.
Yeah, great segue, which leads us to the discussion about the extension of your contract, this being your third year. And again, as Bruce so duly noted, no raise and no increase last year. So, so now that the committee needs to talk about and have a discussion about whether we would like Debbie to continue with the contract and have an extension to her contract for another 3 years. Steve?
I would love to offer another 3 years to Mrs. Spinelli. If the board wants to go along with it, I think that would be a really good thing for our town and our students, as a father who has students here. I'd
That's a
be
motion,
proud to
I'll
make the
second
motion.
I think it is, Tina.
It's a motion, and it was emotion, but it was first a motion.
Well said, Steve.
Okay.
Seconded then.
Any other further discussion?
I don't want to consider her not being.
Yes, okay, so seeing none.
I want to tie this up, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, okay.
Thank you.
so we-
That is the best news of the evening, right there. Thank you. I
Okay.
really appreciate it.
So seeing that we have voted to extend your contract, then we need to discuss this probably in either now or
Wintertime?
wintertime, a couple of.
I would say
more-
January. I
Okay.
certainly would like to wrap it up, in the middle of the year, so
Okay.
that we don't have to worry about anything expiring or not having a
Okay.
loose end at the end of the year,
Okay.
if that's,
That seems.
if that's to your,
Yes,
if that fits with your desire, that'd be
definitely.
great.
Okay, so we'll have those kind of negotiations and then we'll bring them back to
Okay.
committee. Great. All right, very good.
And
Anything-
maybe just thank you to Amy and to Bill, and Janet now,
Yes.
and all the rest of the team that does
Yes.
support you, Deb, because we too, as you recognized
Agreed.
publicly, we too recognize
Absolutely.
that you have a great team, and you've built that team, and that's a sign of a great leader. We appreciate everything you guys do. You know that.
We do.
I hope.
Yeah, they're astounding. Truly.
You cannot retire early. None of the three of you.
Don't worry.
Okay, we're going to move on to other matters, last item. Does anyone have anything under
I have
other
a bunch of
matters?
quick ones.
Okay, go ahead.
As you know, we opened school since we last met.
We did.
And I would say, I know I say this every year, but it was one of the smoothest openings we've had, and this time I think I mean it even more than I have other years. I would really like to thank our administrators and our teachers and everyone who did all the planning. our facilities and maintenance folks who work like dogs, as you found out at the end of August, to do all the regular and special projects. But every single school I visited said it was one of their best openings. So the kids came in, all the rules were established, everyone is off, and I think that really is the work that the teachers do to prepare for the kids to come, and the strong principals that we have, and they've all reported it's one of the smoothest openings, and the kids are wonderfully behaved. We have great kids here, and they feel that it's one of their most positive openings, so I give them all the credit for that. I've been able to attend a couple of open houses, the 5th and 6th grade open house at the Ahern last week, and the elementary open house at the IGO for grades 1 and 3. That was the same as the others, and they were just boatloads of fun. Some of the kids were there for the elementary, and it's just so funny. And all the preparation that teachers do in the first few weeks for that is amazing. I really want to thank Amy for the PD days in August. They were the next few days after we last met. I said to her afterwards, and this is somebody who did that job for many years in 2 districts, I think it was probably the strongest 2 PD days I've ever experienced. And for a couple of reasons, her planning, the team's planning, the principal's involvement, but really meaningful in a couple of ways. One, we did the Darkness to Light training, as you know, which is our partnership with the YMCA, and very important to our community, about child protection, recognizing the signs and protecting children from child sexual abuse, probably one of the most important issues of our day. And we trained about 357 staff members, and we had previously trained about 40. Amy coordinated all of that.
I'm so glad you're saying this, because this is the kind of thing that the public is totally unaware of.
Right, and I think, we entered the partnership with the Y 2 years ago, really before we had any idea that it would affect our community in such a personal way. But we did it because it's an uncomfortable topic, and we don't necessarily have the tools or the knowledge to deal with it. And so we felt it was important at the time, and certainly had much more renewed importance in the last year or so. So that was one of the main reasons I felt was so strong. We had bus drivers, cafeteria workers, every single category of staff members sit through the training, because we felt that it would, and that logistics of that, I don't know how Amy did that, but, you never know who's going to see something that's of concern. And it may not be in the classroom where busy learning is taking place, or where there's, children working together on projects. So that was really important for us to commit to. And the Pearson data analytics training, big kudos to Amy on that. She's the leader in all things data and technical. Pretty smart. And but she wisely trained a whole bunch of teachers as teacher leaders last spring and summer. So she had people in every session that were their colleagues that were already unafraid of it doing the training. And it was amazing to see teachers, which was always my dream, like true empowerment of teachers. And it was a snapshot that, was jaw-dropping. And teachers did so many of the workshops. So for those 2 reasons, to see true teacher empowerment and to see the Darkness to Light, I think it was 2 of the best days that I've ever experienced. So thanks. Keep it up. Park? You want to hear about Park?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have been selected to participate in the Park pilot next spring. No surprise. I thought we just won some kind of unlucky lottery, but I found out at the superintendent's luncheon last week that actually most districts in Massachusetts were selected, and each of us for 3 schools. So we're in the norm. So the high school and the IGO were selected to pilot the online version. So we're getting a final read on our capacity.
IGO.
And the Ahern is piloting the paper version. That's what they were selected for. So more update in the spring on that. And our special education director search will begin this week, also thanks to Amy. And we're on our timeline, and we'll update you on our progress at the next meeting.
Great.
Thanks to
Do
those
we
who are
have any
serving.
guidance, any more guidance positions to be filled around?
I don't think we had any guidance positions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think we had any guidance openings this year. No, so we're in good shape. So thanks to everybody.
I'm just curious if other districts are educating their staff in this, it's the Darkness to Light program, because, I'm in the field of mental health services, and I think it's extraordinary what the district has done. just.
We don't
so
know
it-
of anyone yet
Yeah.
that's made the full commitment we have, but we hope to be role models and leaders and act as an example of what's possible.
Well, I just think it's wonderful. It is, it really is. So thank you for those updates. Anyone else for other matters?
Just one quick one. If you haven't had a chance, the Hearn track is 100% now. So that'll be ready for the spring season, and we're just,
It's all done?
it's all done.
Oh, I have to drive by and see.
Just waiting for the final paperwork that says that they certify the distances and everything, but the only few last things we're doing is protective gear to buy to protect it when the football team runs across or band uses or whatever, but, and we're obviously also trying to get some new signage up that really kind of relays our need to not have bikes on it and dogs and everything else, but I think that being aside, I think it will be a good spring season, one that's, been well over, due for the track team, so.
Great.
Okay, anybody else?
All good things.
Okay,
Motion
well,
to
seeing none, we're going to be concluding this meeting. We're not going to be going into executive session, so I need a motion to end the meeting.
Motion that we close the meeting?
Second that.
Any further discussion about that? And just a vote, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you, good night.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I'm so.